What if I told you that the most confusing, irrational decisions you make aren't actually illogical at all? That they're following a completely different kind of logic, a logic that comes from the incredibly strange world of quantum physics. Yeah, let's dive into this mind-bending idea together.
I mean, have you ever made a choice that, looking back, makes absolutely no sense, or felt a powerful pull toward one decision over another, but you couldn't for the life of you explain why? We've all been there. And that right there is the central puzzle we are going to try and crack today. All right, first up, the puzzle of our minds. To get started, let's take a look at why the old, traditional models of how we think are really starting to show their age. For decades, the going theory was that our brains are basically like computers, right? Super logical, rational, predictable. But come on, we all know that's not the whole picture. Our decisions are often messy, emotional, and totally tangled up in the context of the moment. The old models, they just can't keep up with that. Let me give you a real-world example of this. It's called the disjunction effect. Imagine you're offered a fantastic deal on a vacation to Hawaii. Now, if you know you just passed your big exam, you're probably going to book it to celebrate. If you know you failed, well, you're probably still going to book it as a consolation trip. But what happens if you don't know the result yet? Logically, you should still book it, right? But most people don't. They wait. And that choice completely baffles classical logic. So, if classical logic is falling short, where on earth do we look for answers? Well, the clue comes from a field you would probably never, ever expect. And this is where quantum cognition comes into play. Now, let's be super clear about something right up front. This is not saying that our brains are tiny quantum computers. Nope. It's about using the mathematics of quantum theory as a new kind of language to describe how we think. It's a language that's just way better at capturing the beautiful, messy complexity of the human mind. At the very heart of this new language is something called the qubit. Now, a regular computer bit is simple. It's either a 0 or a 1, on or off. But a qubit can be both at the same time. It's in what's called a superposition of states. The best analogy is a spinning coin. Right before it lands, for just a moment, it's both heads and tails. That moment of pure potential, that is a perfect metaphor for that feeling of uncertainty you have right before you make a big decision. Okay, I know, this all sounds really abstract. But stick with me, because this is where it gets incredibly cool. We can actually visualize these mental states.
So what you're looking at here is called a Bloch sphere. And yeah, it might look a little intense, but it's actually a map of your mind. In quantum physics, it shows the state of a qubit. But for our purposes, you can think of it as a globe of possibility. Every single point on the surface of this sphere represents a potential thought or feeling, giving a real geometric shape to your inner world.
So how exactly do we plot your thoughts on this globe? Well, it's kind of simple. First, every single thought or context is just one point on the sphere's surface. Second, the location of that point is all based on how much it matters to you, subjectively. Is it just a fleeting idea or a deep-seated belief? That's what determines its coordinates. And third, over time, all these points create a totally unique, personal map of your own mental landscape. So we have this map of our thoughts. Awesome. But what's the engine that's actually driving them? What's doing the processing? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple, and it's a number that has fascinated people for centuries. 3. That's it. In this model, the number 3 is the fundamental organizing principle for how our minds process, well, everything. And this gets us to what's called the quantum cognitive triad. The core theory is that our minds naturally process information in sets of 3. These triads create a really stable underlying structure for how we think. But here's the magic trick. It's this stable foundation that actually gives rise to all the incredible flexibility and creativity of human thought. It's the hidden order that makes the beautiful chaos of our minds possible. So let's step back for a second. What does all this actually mean? How does this new perspective, this new geometry of meaning, change how we understand ourselves? Okay, here's the bottom line. The old model's classical rationality saw our decisions as a fixed, straight line from A to B. Quantum cognition sees them as a wave of possibilities that are totally dependent on context. We're not in a single mental state. We're in a superposition of many states all at once, right up until the moment of choice, when that wave collapses into a single reality. And this brings us full circle, right back to that disjunction effect, the Hawaiian vacation.
The reason our choice seems so illogical is because we were using the wrong kind of math. With the language of quantum probability, these decisions that seem totally irrational suddenly make perfect sense. We weren't breaking the rules. We were just playing a different game the whole time.
In the end, this new model does something amazing. It reveals, as the source material so perfectly puts it, the hidden structure of our thoughts and decisions. It shows us that our minds aren't just chaotic and random. They're actually governed by a deeper, more elegant, and, well, more beautiful kind of order. So the question isn't just, what does the map of your mind look like, but maybe, where are you going to let it take you next?